This is Cutting Down the Nets. It's March Madness. This is the 16 games played on Thursday, March 21st, for the first round. We'll go through them in detail. At the end of this video, I'll have what I'm playing, what my leans are, but a lot of it depends on line movement as usual. This is Cutting Down the Nets first round action. The big Thursday, one of the best 2 days of the year. I'll go through game by game of the Thursday schedule. I'm organized by tip time here, which I think is always helpful. So if you haven't checked me out, my pinned video will explain what I do. Essentially, I am the recent efficiency guy. So KenPom, Bart Torvik, all go through adjusted efficiencies and kind of produce some sort of power ranking and analytical projections. I basically cut out the first half of the year, focusing only on the back half of the year. Years ago, I said I want to quantify the theory that teams playing well at the end of the year play better than teams that aren't. And I think in the transfer age and the amount of freshmen that play late in the year, you must be weighting recent play heavy. With transfers, they might not be gelling till mid-season. So I'm pretty much ignoring anything that happens in November, December, and even to some extent, January. So that is me. Let's dig in to the games. We have our opening tip is going to be Tom Izzo against Mississippi State in a grind fest. This is a classic 8-9 game. Things are pretty even. So from a matchup perspective, I'd give a small turnover edge to Michigan State. That could cause problems for the Bulldogs. And I give an offensive rebound edge to the Bulldogs. I think with Izzo, with it being March, that I'm likely on the Mississippi State side. I think the line can grow. Right now, Michigan State's favored by 1.5. If that got to like 3 or somehow more, that is definitely my sweet spot. And this time of year, unlike any other time of year, except maybe like opening a few weeks, you will see line movement just due to the heavy public attention on this. So essentially what's going to happen is both teams are going to force a lot of three-pointers. The Spartans do not shoot many. They're very streaky. So sometimes they'll shoot just 12 threes, they'll make 8. Sometimes they'll shoot 15 threes and make 2. Not a very consistent shooting team. So I like that Mississippi State can kind of keep their proximity away from the basket. Plenty of playmakers on both sides. It's just like it's going to be ugly. Like this is not pure basketball, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. So I'm leaning the Bulldogs, but definitely paying attention to the line and probably betting that game pretty late. Duquesne and BYU. Do not be alarmed by this Paddy number. I have quadruple checked it because, man, I can't find anyone that wants to take the Dukes. So Paddy is right around a point. That's due to a couple things. BYU struggled a little bit down the stretch, and then Duquesne kind of ran through the A10 tournament. So based on what I'm hearing from other people, despite KenPom being at 8, I think this line could grow even more. Start in that 8-9 range. I've now seen some 10s, and kind of curious if that can go even a little bit higher, which I would welcome for sure. So BYU is a high variance team. They shoot about half their shots from three-point range, and they're an elite outside shooting team. Technically, Duquesne has a good three-point defense, but a little deceiving when you look at A10 shooting splits. However, on neutral court, you get into this 10, 11 point range with a team I think as quality as Duquesne. That's a lot of points. You'll notice where shot quality is there as well as KenPom. So leaning the Dukes, we'll kind of see what happens there. Next up, let me freeze the pane here. On-air production meeting. Freeze the pane. We'll go down to Akron and Creighton. So my only concerns here is the pace of this game. I think Akron could just kind of muddy it up a little bit. The Jays also shoot the ball from deep at about a 50% clip. They limit opponents in that regard. So you kind of have a rim protector in Kalkbrenner. You're running people off the 3-point line. I think you could force a lot of mid-range, and I think that's good for the Jays. So in the last 16 games, the Zips have eclipsed 1.1 adjusted offense twice. Not good when the national average is like 1.05, 1.06, something like that. So, I mean, this is not a great offensive team. It's just the environment could lead to it being a little tricky to get over that hump. Paddy has this closer to 20. Shot quality has this closer to 20. Look, I'm in, but Creighton's going to have to be super efficient. An off shooting night is going to make that tricky. Long Beach State, Arizona. I don't know if I'll play this one or not. I'd call it a lean at this point. Couple of reasons. So 20 points is a lot. I think what I like most about this game is that Long Beach will push the pace. So Arizona famously lost to Princeton last year. Princeton really grinded that game down to like a 62 possession game. That's not going to happen here. So if you're going to be in a transition battle with Arizona, I think that's kind of interesting for the Cats there. The next game that will tip off will be the winner of Wagner Howard against UNC. Don't have anything there yet, but yeah, I will obviously be posted on Twitter and BetStamp if I make a play there. Morehead State and Illinois. This one's kind of interesting because I've seen a lot of interest on the Morehead State side. It's a big SQ number. Paddy's pretty close, but I think there's some decent value here. The OVC had a really bad offensive year. When you look like top to bottom, like 3 teams were even above a 1 adjusted point per possession. They haven't seen offenses like this very often. The 2 times they have, Alabama, which I would probably put Illinois' profile from a adjusted offense and adjusted defense in the bucket with Bama. Stylistically, they're a little different, but in terms of like, yeah, it's a pretty leaky defense, but it's an elite offense. In Morehead's game against Bama, they lost by 32. Another elite offense they faced was Purdue, losing by 30. So kind of interesting there, but with the amount of attention I'm seeing around Morehead State, I wonder if that line could maybe tick down a little bit. Oregon, South Carolina is the next game on the schedule. I don't really see any edges here. I mean, this one's really close, and if I'm flipping a coin, I'm flipping the coin on Dana Altman's side. South Carolina has not performed well in games that ended up pace up, so I'm curious if Altman goes that route. So I'm leaning the Ducks here, but I mean, if you're looking at data, everything puts this really close to a pick'em. One of Oregon's best players missed basically the first half of the year. This is another benefit to Paddy looking at the back half of the season. And yeah, if you look at the whole year, I think that looks a little bit different. But Oregon, as healthy as they have been, they're still down some players. I think Bartholomew, there's no way he plays unless you can come back from a compound ankle fracture in 5-6 weeks. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'll watch it. Don't know if I'll have much on that game. Nevada and Dayton, also pretty close. So shot quality has this within a possession. Paddy's kind of within a possession on the other side. The line's pretty much close to a pick'em. So if you look at recent performance, run a little hot from 3 on both teams. Free throw edge to Dayton. If Nevada could somehow get Dayton to commit fouls, which they have not done much this year, yeah, that becomes more interesting. Oakland, Kentucky. To me, this is Oakland zone versus Kentucky shooting. So I lean the Cats here, even though I'm not showing much value from a data perspective. McNeese and Gonzaga, that's kind of frustrating to me because kind of been tracking McNeese all year since they kind of made some noise early in the season. It's really tough to gauge a team that plays in a conference like that. I mean, most teams are playing night in, night out, are in the 300 to 330 range in terms of analytic rankings. But as a little exercise, I eliminated quad 4 games. Let's just take them all out, and what data is left over and what's that look like. Point spread is still around 6 from a projection on my end. So kind of a toss my hands up on this one. Not really sure which angle I go there. South Dakota, Iowa State. Look, shot quality on one side, Paddy on the other. Plenty of concerns for the Jackrabbits. No one wants to play Iowa State. I mean, that's a really aggressive style. The Jacks have played 2 teams that force turnovers and none as good as Iowa State. But Norfolk State beat South Dakota State by 19. That's not a good sign. UCF did beat them by only 3. So, yeah, Iowa State travels well. That game's in Omaha. Good luck. Jackrabbits kind of on the fence there, but I lean Iowa State. St. Peter's, Tennessee. SQ likes the Vols. Paddy likes St. Peter's. It's worth noting that one of St. Peter's best offensive players missed 5 to 6 games in the back half of the season. I've adjusted for that, and this is kind of where we're at there. It's going to be super gross for St. Peter's to score at all, but if you can keep that pace in the low 60s, high 50s, 22 becomes a really, really, really big number. But yeah, that's not going to be good basketball to watch. NC State, Texas Tech. I'm going to breeze through that one because of some injuries. The next 2 games kind of have some injuries to watch out for. So unknowns for Texas Tech. Washington, their big man, and Williams, one of their best scorers. Would want to know their status before making a play, but Williams would be a massive, massive loss. And I do think Washington would be helpful versus DJ Burns. NC State has been above 116 in adjusted offense every single game since February 10th. They are they're good. 5.5 points would be too many here. Even if that dropped a little bit, I'm still on the NC State side. Look at these splits. So I isolated games with Dickinson and McCullers. So the top line here is where I projected Kansas against Samford, just playing it straight. Hey, they missed some guys down the stretch, laid a couple eggs at the end, and I put it around 7. Paddy median was a little closer to a possession. Shot quality's up there quite a bit. If you just remove that data and be like, let's pretend those games didn't exist. What does this look like? And I have Kansas more in that 13 to 15 range, which is actually right in line with shot quality. Samford's a really unique style, which I think is fun. So buckyball is interesting there with the heavy zone rates, and kind of curious how that will go. So status of those players is of utmost importance to me. Drake, Washington State. I'm betting Drake. It's not a Paddy play. Gonna wear a Drake t-shirt. Narrative Street, I think. They're in Omaha, so not that Drake has a massive fan base, but it's an easy drive from Des Moines to Omaha. And I also think the Cyclone fans stick around for that game, which is the final game of the day, and give her hell. I think you're going to get a little home court edge for Drake. The crowd will get behind it, but it's going to be a close game. All data points have that within a possession either way. So that brings us back to a little recap here. Left side, I'm playing, but I'm watching these lines. I'll arrive in Las Vegas sometime tonight around 10 o'clock, and then I'm interested in some leans on the right-hand side. Those would be more fun plays for me, and the asterisks are the injury situations for Texas Tech and Kansas, which I think are of utmost importance. So a few toss-ups in there. The spreadsheet I just walked through is in the description of this video. It's very similar to the spreadsheets I shared daily, every day, from cutting down the nets to show you what recent efficiencies look like for that day's matchups. This is the best time of the year. If you're in Las Vegas, grab a beer. How about a beer? Should be a fun time. Excited to get away with the guys and watch basketball straight for 2 days. This is Cutting Down the Nets. Good luck, everybody.